to you from the world famous Parkway Diner. We love this place. We think it's cool. And it is now Monday night, November 4th, the year of our Lord 2024. And I will tell you, the tension is in the air. Yep, you could almost cut it with a knife. As I have been driving in, listening to Sean Hannity and others, and our new objective reporter, Mark Halperin, seriously, you have this two-faced message that's being submitted, all right? On the one hand, we're saying things look pretty good for Trump, but on the other hand, take nothing for granted. So everybody who's going to vote for Trump, get out there. The rest of you, you can stay home. I didn't say that, but everybody's going to vote for Trump. Tomorrow is your big day. This is for the moment for you to shine, because when you cast that vote for Trump, I'm saying it, you're saving America, okay? You're saving America from the deep state. You're saving America from closet communists like Tim Walz and Kamala Harris, okay? You're setting the stage so that we can fix the border and all the problems that have come with it. That's why you need to get out and vote, as far as that's concerned. So this leads up then to the theme. This is the last. This is number 8 in our series on State of America that we've been talking about. We talked about education and the elites, but tonight, of course, it's about the election. So the theme is, we will know in 36 hours, maybe. And one way I want to kick this, there are two things, but one way I want to kick it off is, we know that the Democrats are going to do everything they can to stop Trump. However, I'm not quite sure what to make of this. So let me share something with you that's got me going, huh? What? Are you serious? Okay, so we had, oh my goodness, I got a thing about James Carville. You got to stick around for that. That is unbelievable. Okay, the title of this article says, Democrats have a plan if Trump prematurely declares election victory. Oh, great. Well, what is that plan, pray tell? And oh, by the way, I just want to make 2 comments that I've been sharing with my friends here this evening. When it comes to plans in a time of conflict and controversy, there are 2 points to consider. When it comes to a military plan, we're talking no plan survives the first bullet, okay? When it comes to life in general, we defer to Mike Tyson when he said everybody has a plan until they get smashed in the face. Well, I will confess, maybe in a moment of hubris and overconfidence, I might suggest that the Democrats are going to get smashed in the face tomorrow night. So how's that plan going to work out, guys? You're going to love this. I couldn't believe it when I read this. Their plan, if Trump attempts to announce victory prematurely, they said, we are going to go to the court of public opinion, and we're going to use social media. Really? I don't think I've ever heard a lamer plan than that. So the problem I'm having, if that's the best that you have, boy, shades of Helm Deep from Lord of the Rings and the Twin Towers. But if that's the best you have, boy, yeah, guys, I don't think we've got much to worry about maybe, but it's still up in the air. Okay, so I just wanted to share that with you. Of course, all right, let me get to the other point here. So some of you may have read, hopefully, the rather long newsletter I put out on the theme of we'll know in 36 hours maybe. There are several points to keep in mind. As the moment arrives, oh, by the way, let me just, before I forget, this is the overriding theme here, okay? Right here. So just keep that in mind. Last-ditch Democrat plan. Force-feeding election fraud on election day. So in other words, think of those poor geese where you're going to make foie gras, right? And you stuff the grain down their gullet. Democrats are going to stuff ballots down the gullet of the election system like you wouldn't believe. That is my prediction, okay? So it's the idea that if they can overwhelm and flood the safeguards for election integrity the way illegal aliens have flooded the border, then they think they'll be able to pull this off. So that's what I worry about. That's what I worry about. Meantime, so here's the thing. There's still this air of desperation among Democrats. I break them down into two groups, okay? One group of Democrats I call the scorched earth Democrats, and the other group is the long-term planning Democrats. So the scorched earth Democrats are the ones who fear for their lives, and they're going to do anything they can, and I mean anything. There'll be riots in the street. There'll be all kinds of destructive acts, all kinds of acts of interference. They'll try to shut down different election centers. They'll tamper wherever they can. They'll burn more mail-in ballot boxes. God knows the things they're going to try to do. Meantime, over in the other corner, we have the long-term planning Democrats. Hopefully, cooler heads will prevail, and they'll get the scorched earth Democrats to calm down. And they're just going to make a very obvious point that should be clear to anyone. Elections go in cycles, okay? I know it's a little hard for you to accept, but elections actually do go in cycles. So there come times when the Republicans have swept Democrats out of office, only later, when they have overreached, we come back again. Even if it takes 20 years, we'll be back. So don't let this bother you. That's the attitude of the long-term planning Democrats. So I just hope that they can exert some control of the scorched earth Democrats. Right now, you know, one of the other stories tonight is that, yes, the ultimate sin is being committed by Democrats by weaponizing people. In other words, getting them out into the streets and having violent demonstrations that will make the summer of 2020 seem like a picnic, right? So I'm trying to find that wonderful, wonderful part here. So this we can see coming. Now, one of the other observations is that we saw so much cheating going on in 2020, never resolved, right? And there was more in 2022. Okay, this time, to the credit of the Republican National Committee, they have filed over 130 lawsuits and more, okay, in order to stop the attempts of the Democrats to pervert integrity in elections in various states around the country. That's good, but you have to weigh that against the ongoing stream of reports of cheating that's been going on. There was on X, you had the voter in Kentucky. It shows the video of him tapping the name Trump on the election machine screen, and it wouldn't do anything. And he kept tapping it, and then all of a sudden, even though he's tapping on Trump, the Harris selection lights up, okay? So that's been going on in Kentucky. It's been going on in Texas. There have been, there were 2 cases in Florida of huge trailer trucks that had accidents, and what spilled out of those huge tractor trailers? That's right, ballots, lots and lots of ballots. What were they doing in that trailer truck, you know, a day or 2 before the election? It's a fair question. And there are many other examples. The cases in Pennsylvania, you know, where illegal ballots were submitted. Now, thankfully, some officials said, gee, these ballots look questionable to us. But that's not good enough. It's not good enough. You're going to put it in an investigation. And then there's the situation with 1.2 million names in Arizona. And we keep getting 2 versions of what's happening there. And I'm sorry, my sense right now is it's too late, and those 1.2 million names are going to be on there. And Democrats are going to have a heyday in terms of election fraud. So that's kind of how I feel about that. So maybe a little bit weaker than last time, but it's still going on. And you know, look, the Democrats will be as creative as they can be. All right, they are not going to settle for losing without making a pitched effort to cheat in any way that they can. So look for methods of cheating you never even heard of before, which leads to my next point, that among the people who have been making significant threats have been Mark Elias and Jamie Raskin. Now, Mark Elias, some of you may know, is the evil genius Democrat who engineered the alteration of laws in the 2020 election that enabled a lot of that fraud to take place. He's actually given even more free rein in this election cycle to do that and more. Steve Bannon suggested that he's got some aces up his sleeve. There are some things that he's hiding. And the way he describes it is that Mark Elias has a black box, and that black box will get popped open on Election Day, which leads to my earlier suggestion that the polls will be absolutely flooded with ballots. Now, this is part of what would be expected anyway, because it is on Election Day that all the absentee ballot comes in, all the remaining mail-in ballots come in. So yeah, there's going to be a flood. So why not flood it with fraudulent ballots at the same time? Makes sense to me. And Jamie Raskin, if you've been following him at all, the red diaper doper baby that he is, promises that he'll do whatever he can to stop Trump from taking office. Okay, he'll use every statute, every procedure that's available to him in the federal law to stop Trump from assuming office, plus some other things that will be outrageous. They'll do things that follow the law. They'll do things that break the law. They don't care. Now, in the meantime, the other thing you may have noticed in the last week is what we'll call the election narrative wars. So we who are Trump fans have been accustomed to seeing this steady diet of good news saying, looks, it's trending in his direction, good, good, good. And all of a sudden, for example, we hear a report out of Iowa where suddenly he's lost track. Yes, lost track, or not, he's losing ground against Kamala, had a huge lead, but now it's smaller. Then you have the poly markets, that's the betting group that's had, I think at one point, Trump at 65%, Kamala at 35%. But we have two reports now where Trump's ranking has gone down, but he's still ahead. So in other words, the gap is narrowing, and that makes the argument that Kamala is making a strong play in these last days. Maybe yes, maybe no. But the point is, you have people who, I'm sorry, in my humble opinion, are engaging in psyops, that's right, psyops, to get you to lose heart. Don't let them do it. Now, the last part of this is, after you consider all these things, what's going to happen? So let me just go down a list. I find this ironic, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Here I was doing this research, and so I came across this really neat list. So I'm just going to quickly rattle it off. These are signs of vote rigging. More votes than voters in a voting area. More voters than could be eligible to vote. A large number of invalid votes. And results that don't match, such as more votes than ballots. This has been done before, okay? If you follow this over the years, how many times have we seen these towns, Ohio, Denver, Florida, and other places, where the actual number of votes was 125% of the number of the registered voters in that town? And nobody does anything about it. So the article that discussed these was about election fraud in Africa. So you have to stop and ask yourself something. Wait a second. You're telling me that these are the kinds of things that are done in elections in Africa? Well, they use paper ballots, don't they? Well, so they get away with this, even with paper ballots? Okay, so if that's the case, clearly something's wrong. Nonetheless, okay, so that summarizes that. I want you to go and check it out. And we're always looking for feedback. We want to hear from our audience. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Okay. Now, while this is going on, you know, the enemies of this country, Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, look at this as a moment of weakness for the nation. And they would like to find ways to take advantage of it. Well, in an effort to preempt that, I'll give them some credit where credit is due. Now, it's a little hard to tell the difference. When you have deployments of the American military, whether it's the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, Marines, out there, they're out there for a certain period of time, then there's a rotation. Okay, so the guys that are deployed come home, get some rest, and then the new crew, the fresh crew is out there to pick up slack for them. All right, so you have the news saying, well, Iran, you better watch yourself. you better watch yourself because we're going to deploy some nuclear bombers your way. So don't start getting any ideas. All right, but if it turns out that these are part of a normal rotation, what's the big deal? So how much puffery do we have from our friend here, Mr. Austin, what's his name? Austin, where are you, Austin? You know, the Secretary of Defense, that character. Okay, let's try and get to some other things here. There's a very disturbing article that I saw. Yeah, here it is. Okay, some of you may be familiar with what are called PFAS, perfluorocarbonated, PFAS, well, I'm trying to remember the rest. They call them forever chemicals. And now we have a subset of this. They're called phthalates, which could be used as solvents for plasticizers. And I think they're used in paints and other things. Well, it turns out these phthalates can be carcinogenic. Normally, you'd think of this kind of stuff as ending up in a landfill. It could even be in the water supply sometimes. But for these things to actually be detected in the air and at a level that concerns you, well, that's news, okay? And that's why I'm telling you about it. So check out the links. There's one about how phthalates have been found in the air in Southern California. And then the other is that phthalates can impair normal brain function, okay? So you want to check that out. A hot item, excuse me, a hot item is that we see, I mean, when the spineless noodle, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, stands up and makes a strong statement about something, you can be sure there's some seriousness behind it. So he actually laid out a plan for mass deportation following the election if Trump is victorious. So I take that as good news because mass deportation, like it or not, will be needed. So check that out. And then see, there's a couple other things here quickly. Yeah, I don't have to tell you about that. Okay, some of you may or may not remember, there's a woman named Cassidy Hutchinson who was purportedly in the car with Donald Trump during January 6th, and she claimed that he tried to take control of the car and steer someplace, the most ridiculous story you ever heard. But because of the people in Congress, this thing was somehow allowed to get some traction. So there's a video summary where Julie Kelly gives her explanation of why she thinks Cassidy lied about this. All right, so I want to close with one thing that Wilm and I were debating concerning the Ukraine war, okay? Apparently, I think it's the Kiev Independent reported that there's a plan where the North Koreans will have to assign one translator for every 30 soldiers. So this is the magic moment, ladies and gentlemen, where you need to stop, reflect, and weigh, what does this portend? Okay, still a debate, but I'm just to cut to the chase. I believe that ultimately, inevitably, North Korean soldiers will be involved in combat. That's right. I am predicting that North Korean soldiers will shoot and kill Ukrainian soldiers and civilians. I'm going to say it again for emphasis. North Korean soldiers will be killing Ukrainian soldiers and civilians. This is your theory. It is my theory. That is correct. Okay? And part of what drives this is that the North Koreans recognize that they have no combat experience. There are very few old survivors from the Korean War. All right, so the main point I want to emphasize here is that the ability of these two forces, which are going to have to be integrated if they're going to fight, will require a smooth system of communication when it comes to translating Korean to Russian and Russian to Korean. This, ladies and gentlemen, is not going to end well. And as a little teaser in the article, again, from the Ukrainian side, but they did make the claim that there were a number of Korean soldiers who have already been chased down because they abandoned their post. So this is an important question. The honor of North Korea depends upon whether or not these soldiers show the ability to stand in the fight. And so far, they are off to a bad start. Okay? So on that happy note, Stick around. We're going to be sending out more stuff. Stay tuned. We'll see you next week.